Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Reverend Jude Geiger, the Minister of Community Engagement here at Community Church, and I welcome you on behalf of our ministry team, our staff, and all our lay leaders. It is good to be together both in person and online. Community Church is a multiracial, multicultural, multi-generational congregation with a vision and commitment to build a world grounded in equity and inclusion. With me today is Jerry Brown, our Director of Music behind the organ right now, Darnell White, our musician in residence, our talented choir, and Reverend Peggy, our Senior Minister. Community Church is in transition. We have sold our church building and are in the process of finding another in this neighborhood. In the meantime, we are guests here for which we are grateful, even if this beautiful space isn't necessarily perfectly reflective of our theology. Children are always welcome in worship. Feel free to move around the space or to join children's programming happening up in our loft. The sound of babies crying or children fidgeting is a beautiful part of being in community. Masks are optional. We ask that everyone be respectful of each other's decisions and need for personal space. Today's service is called Love is the Enduring Force. Please rise now in body or in spirit and join me in our opening hymn, number 360. Here we have gathered.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It is good to see you all here today. So today is a little bit different in that I don't usually spend worship time talking about denominational matters very often. I think in the almost 4 years I've been here, I've never done it. I'm doing it today because what's happening is pretty important and it's theologically grounded. There are changes being made to the bylaws at the UUA, which offer us a new way to articulate what we believe. So to be clear up front, the changes include the elimination of the 7 principles and 6 sources as they are outlined in Article 2 of the UUA bylaws and replaced with new language. So it feels like a big deal, and I thought it would be worth our just a little bit of reflection time. So let's begin. As we enter worship, let's put away the pressures of the world that ask us to perform, to take on masks, to put up brave fronts. Silence the voices that ask you to be perfect. This is a community of compassion and welcoming. You do not have to do anything to earn the love contained in these walls. You do not have to be braver, smarter, stronger, better than you are in this very moment. You only have to bring the gifts of your body, no matter how able, your seeking mind, no matter how busy, your animal heart, no matter how broken. Bring all that you are and all that you love to this quiet hour so we can worship together. Please rise in body or in spirit as we light our chalice, and we'll begin with a song.
We light this candle, the flame of our heritage. May it ignite hope in our lives, in our community, and in the world. I invite you to join with us in our unison affirmation as printed in the order of service. Unto the Church Universal, which is the depository of all ancient wisdom and the school of all modern thought, which recognizes in all prophets a harmony, in all scriptures a unity, and through all dispensation a continuity, which abjures all that separates and divides, and always magnifies humanity and peace, which seeks truth in freedom, justice in love, and individual discipline in social duty, and which shall make of all persons one beloved community, unto this church and unto all its members, known and unknown, throughout the world, we pledge the allegiance of our hands and hearts. We are gathered on the unceded land of the Lenape peoples. We acknowledge the Lenape community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement demonstrates a commitment to beginning the process of working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. And now, in the time of our service, we invite you to make a joyful noise and greet your neighbors. Thank you. Right. In a moment, I'll invite us all back to our seats where we'll enter into a time of silence following a chime, knowing that with all the wiggles and coughs and sneezes of the world, it's not about the perfection of silence, but the intention. Join with me now. Spirit of stillness, God of many names, source of love. We take a moment to recognize and witness across our nation the strangest of weather patterns, the southeast receiving record temperatures of heat, our own area still not blanketed by snow of any accumulation, the longest in record, and snowstorms from LA almost to this coast. Help us to find the lessons among our nation with much of it covered in snow and ice. For so many across our country, the greens are hidden, the tree branches are burdened, hanging low, and for many, the roads are not passable. But like all winters, this is true for but a time. The snows will melt, the earth will green, and color after color will spring into newness. Life was always there beneath the earth, waiting to be seen. May we come to find it once more with new eyes after a long season. Mother of hope, we know that rightly some of us find joy in the playtime, sleds and snowmen and winter hikes. May that joy inspire us, reminding us to play and not always toil. Others among us are worn down by season after season, from illness or sadness, missing the long days of sun and warmth. May we honor this difficulty while grounded in the truth that although hidden, life surrounds us all the time. At the close of Black History Month, may the winter months draw us to the truth that in all things the world bends toward justice, that we might find ourselves returning to the month of winter in the march toward wider freedom again and again. Spring always follows the ice. Life will triumph over the weight covering it, one story at a time. May we remember that the challenges before us today are not entirely the same as those we struggled with generations past. Much work must be done, and we are the hands that do it. But the work of the generations before brought us forward along the rough road. May we keep going forward. And we pause to celebrate one of our own members, Reverend Rosemary Bray-McNatt, who now serves as the president of our seminary in Star King on the West Coast. She has received the UU Distinguished Service Award, the highest award in our denomination, for her lifetime of commitment and justice and teaching. For all the things that have been said and for all the things that are silently written on the tablets of our hearts, we pray. Amen and blessed be. We'll follow with a musical meditation, What Wondrous Love Is This, number 18.
Love is this, oh
This reading is an excerpt from the newly proposed language for the Unitarian Universalist Association bylaws, written by the Commission on Article 2, chaired by our own member, Reverend Cheryl Walker. The purpose of the Unitarian Universalist Association is to actively engage its members in the transformation of the world through liberating love. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant congregation to congregation and through our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Inseparable from one another, these shared values are interdependence, pluralism, justice, transformation, generosity, and equity. I invite you now to rise in body or in spirit and sing hymn number 1074 in the Teal hymnal, Turn the World Around.
What would it look like if love was at the center of everything? What if love was the organizing principle of your condo or co-op board? What if love was the organizing principle of your kid's school? What if love was the organizing principle of our city or state government? What would it look like if, when making decisions, Congress asked themselves what the most loving choice would be? What if corporations prioritize love over profit? What if love was the driving force, the central principle of every institution, every organization in our lives? What if we recognized love as the one constant, the critical reality that never loses value over time? Been true for millennia. The universal force for good, recognizable in every cultural context. What would happen if we put love at the center of everything? I suppose if that was a revolution we wanted to spark, the place to start would be religious institutions. And if we were starting with a religious institution, it may as well be our own. And if it was going to start with us, it may as well start now. But first, let's look at how we got here. So the year was 2009. In General Assembly, the annual gathering of UU delegates was taking place in Salt Lake City. A lot of business is covered at these gatherings, and thousands of people representing their congregations are there to learn and debate and embody the critical relationship between governance and theology. My husband, Graham, was there on behalf of our home church in Mount Kisco, and there was an item on the agenda that has his attention. Now, those of you who know Graham may be thinking, really? Like, Graham was at General Assembly? Graham, who maybe has been here 3 times, I think it may be the last time he went to church, but he was there, and he cared deeply about this issue. The language for the 7 principles and 6 sources was potentially going to be altered, and the new version, in his opinion, downgraded atheism, and he was not happy. My 15-hour days were over, and I was done with GA, very much looking forward to catching a plane home. But Graham insisted we stay for this vote. He even went to the mic to speak against the proposed change. The debate was heated. Now, usually debate gets cut when one microphone, there's a pro and a con mic, and when one has a really long line and then the other doesn't have any people at it, debate is ended. But this debate, both mics had really, really long lines. It was very heated. It just kept going. When time ran out, people voted for more time so the discussion could be extended. There was no clear winner here. So Graham insisted we stay to make sure our votes were counted. Cutting our travel time very close, we remained in our seats with our pink voting cards in the air to ensure our opposition to the change was noted. With more than 4,000 people in the room, it came down to 13 votes, and 2 were ours. The motion to change the language failed. We ran for the plane. I wasn't as committed to keeping the language as my husband was, but I did find the whole process fascinating. The 7 principles and 6 sources are written into the bylaws of the Unitarian Universalist Association, which is a collection of congregations who have committed to a loose relationship with one another, largely bound by covenant as expressed in the bylaws, while remaining entirely independent. When the text was first codified, it was 1961, and it was done as part of the merger between the Unitarian and the Universalist, these two separate denominations. Because both groups were non-creedal, they were concerned about putting anything in such a document that might over time ossify. They were afraid that if we outline our theology, even in the barest of terms, people might grow too attached, ultimately not allowing the language or the theology to change over time. We do, after all, believe that Revelation continues to unfold. So in addition to writing a brief statement of faith intended to hold these two historic groups together, they also built in an automatic deliberation of that statement every 15 years, forcing us to at least consider changing the language periodically. So that's what was happening in Salt Lake City. In 1961, there were 6 principles, which included to cherish and spread the universal truths taught by the great prophets and teachers, immemorially summarized in the Judeo-Christian heritage as love of God and love to man. And another that said to encourage cooperation with men of goodwill in every land. So as a woman, I'm grateful that they considered revisions. Those statements really remind me of the language that you would have found in many Unitarian churches in the first half of the 20th century. It said, "We believe in the fatherhood of God, the brotherhood of man, the leadership of Jesus, salvation through character, and the steady progress of mankind onward and upward forever." So over time, we've become more expansive, more inclusive, and generally more open to a larger variety of ways people connect to the world spiritually. We extended to 7 principles and 6 sources. We altered language, first to include women, and more recently to let go of the binary altogether. We also tried to do a lot of wordsmithing, right? The vote in 2009 was one example, but there have been others. I was part of a group hoping to alter the words every person to all beings. And we've all been part of the move to add the 8th principle to encourage and support our commitment to anti-racism and anti-oppression work. I'll tell you, anyone who's been in a board meeting with me knows that I hate bylaws. And this is why. I think every set of bylaws should say as little as possible. You've all seen it here when we try to change a bylaw, a task I actually think we're taking on yet again in a few weeks. So now imagine that there are thousands of people in the room, and it is, in fact, as bad as you think. With an equal level of frustration, someone proposed something new. What if, instead of having hundreds of congregations wordsmithing principles and purposes and sources, all part of Article 2 in our bylaws, what if we change it completely? What if we consider broad values we all share instead of trying to get so specific? A covenant, which is the language used to introduce these principles in Article 2, is not a creed or an unchanging declaration or the final word on anything. It's a framework, a way of relating and understanding between people that we're in this together, that we're partners in the work. It's an acknowledgement of a relationship that exists regardless of how we behave. A covenant calls us to presence, to trust, sometimes to sacrifice. It is humble, knowing change is required in response to an unfolding and unpredictable future. It is in movement, always being renewed, always seeking a new harmony with new voices. A covenant is also stable and stabilizing. It is the container within which we exist together, providing walls to lean on, keeping us within boundaries as we engage in all the complexities of human relationships. As members of this association, we are all technically, and maybe just theoretically, in covenant with one another, I mean between churches. So one of the ways we've articulated that covenant is when we say we covenant to affirm and promote, and then we list the principles. And we agree the principles aren't a creed, aren't perfectly reflective of our faith and our shared values, although they come close. And we agree that they should be reviewed and altered periodically. To that end, the UUA board appointed a team which was, as it happens, led by our own Cheryl Walker, who's a member here. There were, as you can imagine, focus groups and forums, both open and closed. There were rough drafts and first drafts and rewritings of all kinds. And what we have now is not done, it's a proposal. They've created something they believe reflects who we are across all kinds of boundaries and borders, mirroring what we believe. It is not linear. It is not a list. It is a dynamic image revealing so much of what we value, and at the center is love. There's a diagram on the handouts. I don't know if you have those handouts, and I know the difference between a sermon and a lecture, so if you don't have them, it's okay. They're in the back. You can take a look at them later. It's the diagram, the picture that they created is almost a flower or waves or arms stretching out from the center. And at the center is the word love with a chalice. And surrounding love are the words that the writing team heard consistently during all the focus groups they've been holding. Our shared values include interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice. At the center, though, is love. Love is the heartbeat, the life-giving force that animates all the other values. In this new articulation of who we are saying that love is our organizing principle. And from love, or because of love, we live big, hopeful, beautiful lives, and we promote choices that hold people up, that heal our planet, that support expansiveness, inclusion, and life in all its full and rich dimensions. It's often said that nobody is going to recite the 7 principles on their deathbeds. As a Catholic, I would recite the prayer called the Our Father to myself whenever I was in need of strength or grounding. In times of grief or trauma, in times of joy even, I would almost mindlessly repeat those words to myself because I found them comforting. As a UU, I don't have something similar. So I wonder if the authors have given us something, or maybe even a place to start. I wonder if this could be our new mantra. I know love is at the center. When I'm afraid, when I'm angry, when I'm grieving, I remember love at the center. I actually think there's something there. I started repeating that to myself while I was writing this. I even wonder if it could become part of a congregational covenant. We know love to be at the center. When we are afraid, when we are angry, when we are grieving, we remember love at the center. Adrienne Marie Brown, in her book Emergent Strategy, wrote, "When we are engaged in acts of love, we humans are at our best and most resilient. If love were the central practice of a new generation of organizers and spiritual leaders, it would have massive impact. If the goal was to increase love, rather than winning or dominating a constant opponent, I think we could actually imagine liberation from oppression. We would suddenly be seeing everything we do, everyone we meet, not through the tactical eyes of war, but through eyes of love. We would understand that the strength of our movement is in the strength of relationships, measured only by their depth. So this brings us back to the beginning. What if love was at the center? What if love was the organizing principle for our lives? What if we knew that our strength is in our relationships, that our power comes from the depth of our empathy, that our task is not to win, but to commit to transformative love? What if we let go of the lists of things we're sure we believe in and instead leaned into a more dynamic possibility, centering love and moving from there into the world? What would that do to our church? How are we different if we center love? What does that do to the covenant we have with other UU churches? Does it change the way we relate to them? And should it? Imagine the witness we would become imagine the witness we would become in the world if love was at our center. As I was writing this, I couldn't stop thinking about the shelter, with Lisa and Austin remaining committed even though they moved to Delaware, with the committee, with the staff pouring themselves out to ensure we can provide beds for people we don't know, but we know need to be safe and warm. Brother Zachary started in August, and by early September, he grabbed the directive with his whole being, fully engaged in doing whatever it was to get us open. Love was at the center. So maybe this is who we are. At the very least, it's a peek into who we could be. What will happen to this new language is unclear. The delegates at June's General Assembly will vote on whether they want to move the process forward. And if they do, we'll spend another year tweaking and wordsmithing, I'm sure, and then we'll vote again next year. Regardless of whether anything comes of it, though, I think the challenge has been issued, and we can't pretend we haven't heard it. Can we live into the grand question? What would it look like if love was at the center of everything? Let's rise in body or spirit and sing together, Building a New Way, number 1017 in the Teal hymnal.
Life at Community Church is busy, whether we're online or in person. It is our hope that wherever you are, and in whatever way you're comfortable engaging in the mission and ministry of this church, we have provided opportunities for you. If you're streaming this service live and would like to join others for fellowship, click the link on our webpage at 3 p.m. to enter our Zoom room. For everyone's safety, cameras need to be on. And every Thursday evening, we have a Spanish language appreciation group for Spanish speakers or those who would like to learn. La Hora del Café is hosted by Esther Rosado online, and if you'd like to join, the link is on our website. Please, please, please mark your calendars for March 26th. Bring a friend. The president of our denomination and the executive director of the UU Service Committee are joining us for worship and to bring us a message of gratitude for our long tradition and history of justice work. We'll have a troupe of dancers and an extra musician, and we're hoping every member will be here, and that, again, if you missed it the first time, bring some friends. We are a 7-day church and have programs running every day of the week. You can find more information in the program and on our website. Our ushers are going to pass a plate for our collection now. If you're new here, please let the plate go by you with no pressure to give. We are glad for your presence. All gifts offered are accepted in gratitude.
Please join me for the chalice extinguishing, which is found in your program. Knowing how quickly the flame of truth may be extinguished, how easily the chalice of fellowship broken, let us be vigilant in faith, keep peace in our hearts, and make care for one another the watchword of our lives together, so our light goes out everywhere into the world. Our light goes out everywhere healing and hope are needed. Go in peace to love and serve the world and one another. Good to be with you.